Welcome to Boardgamer, and in today's strategy guide we're going to take a look at Nevlas, one of the general all-rounder white factions. So getting a quick overview of Nevlas, first off they start with a boost on the science track. And they also have this unique ability that whenever they have a power that's in level 3, they can convert that power over to be able to get a knowledge. That's a unique faction ability that they have as a base. Their second ability, once they've got their Planetary Institute out, is that any of their power that's in level 3 is doubled. So therefore these 2 power tokens are actually going to be worth 4. That's going to mean that Nevlas are really going to be dominating on all of these power actions throughout the game. Now Nevlas, because of these abilities, are really more of an all-rounder. You can make Nevlas work in most games. They're going to always be a nice pick. You can always find there's something to do with them. They may not have a game style that completely is pointed towards them, but they can generally do very well in most cases. Because of this general ability of them though, and their ability to dominate both in science and on the power actions, they have a huge amount of things that make the game tricky for them, which we're going to go into seeing now. So speaking of things that make the game tricky for them, they have quite a few rivals, and we'll go through these one by one. Terrans. Firstly, the Terrans are going to be rivals of them because they're going to be trying to take a lot of the white planets off them. Terrans do a lot of terraforming, so white planets are just going to disappear, any green planets are going to disappear, and of course blue planets are going to disappear if you're playing a game against the Terrans. That's going to make things tricky for the Nevlas as they try and expand throughout the map. On to our next one, Beskhards and or Fyrax. If you're playing against someone that's playing a grey faction, for a similar reason, they're going to be trying to dominate on these white planets as well as the grey planets, green planets potentially, but not just that, the Beskhards and the Fyrax are going to be very science-based factions, which means as you get into the late game, they're going to be trying to take that top spot away from you, which is going to make a challenge because Nevlas always want to end up there on the last round. So you might find that you're jostling for position against any grey faction, or as we'll see, both brown and red factions as well. So that's going to be a little challenge that you're going to have when playing as Nevlas. Speaking of red factions, this is where we're going to find a little bit of trouble, as Ivits are going to try and take everything, so that's always going to be a problem as they try and take over blue planets and white planets as well as green planets. But also because Ivits are much more dominant in their strategy, the one thing they're definitely going to do is try and fly up the economy and the science tracks. That's going to make things difficult for Nevlas, as we spoke before about jostling for position of the top spaces. Then finally looking at Talons. Now Talons are specifically going to make things tricky for Nevlas, as they're always going to be using their brainstone to try and fight for these power spots over here. These power actions are going to go like hotcakes, and especially if you're playing against Talons, that's what they're going to be doing. They're going to be trying to dominate for those, which is going to make a little bit of a challenge for Nevlas, as Nevlas have a similar ability wanting to use those power actions. That's exactly what Talons are going to be doing. They're going to be fighting Nevlas for those power actions throughout the entire game. So let's take a look at our endgame scoring and our round scoring to give us an overview of why Nevlas are going to do the things they're going to do. Now, Nevlas being an all-rounder will do very well at playing most strategies, so I've put some of the general endgame scoring tiles that are mostly going to work for them, as these are the general ones rather than specific ones like federations or satellites. For example, sectors, terraforming, Gaia planets and buildings are always going to do very well for them. But generally, as we see, that Nevlas are going to spike straight up that science track. So things that to do with that are going to be important. So for example, Nevlas are definitely going to want to get all 3 of their research labs out, both of their academies out. But what does that mean? That means that anything that goes towards that progression, getting mines, which then turn into trading stations, which then turn into research labs, and eventually end up as academies. So having these rounds where if you put academies out is going to be a very good thing for Nevlas. These can be switched round, they're not in any specific perfect position. After all, Nevlas are a very all-rounder faction. Generally, you won't be needing to get Federation tokens till later on in the game, and especially in the last round when you get this top space on the science track, that's when you're going to suddenly try and jump up all of these tracks that you haven't done. So that's why having this token in the last round, about 2 points for every space you improve on technology, is going to be a really good scoring round if you're playing as Nevlas. Now, taking a look at our technology board, this is how it's going to start for Nevlas, and these are the only tiles that really matter for Nevlas. The other tiles are over here, they can go wherever, it doesn't matter, we don't care, but these are going to be the ones that really matter. If you see these ones come out and you're not sure what faction to play, well, already we're thinking, well, I could have a good game if I play Nevlas. Why? After all, Nevlas play heavy into the power actions, so having this tile that lets us get 4 charges is just going to be super duper useful. Having this ongoing bonus of an additional charge, that's going to be really useful. Having them in these general spots is good, but these could interchange. And of course, Nevlas want to shoot up that science track, so having this bonus on top of this other bonus, just stacking, is going to be a really good boost for Nevlas. And of course that goes with having our economy stacking on top of it as well. We want to go up this track so we can get our charge as well as the economy bonus. That's going to be useful, but especially getting that power charge. This is exactly what Nevlas want to do. Nevlas want to get to the top of these. That's what they want to do. You want to get to level 4 as soon as possible in the game, and then end game you're going to want to get to these 2 top spaces. That's the real goal of Nevlas. If you've got that, everything else is great, that's going to help, but this is going to be your core of how you want to play this section right here as Nevlas. That being the case, if we take a look at our round boosters, again, do you notice a theme with the round boosters? After all, Nevlas are going to have their research labs out throughout the game. They're going to want their academies out throughout the game. So these tiles are going to be really good for scoring. They're going to be great. These are going to be some of your hard hitters for getting a high score. Trying to take these as often as you can, especially the fact that this one gives us 4 power charges. This one will give us some extra science and knowledge. Really, really good round boosters for playing as Nevlas. These other ones have those bonuses as well, that's going to help. Any of the other tiles are useful, but they're not going to be as dominant to a Nevlas strategy as these round boosters right here. Now, if we take a look at the map when playing as Nevlas, of course, we want a nice clean start. We don't want to have to be spending too much to try and move throughout the galaxy, but overall we're not overly worried about the layout too much. Of course, not having to spend to invest in our navigation track is going to be really useful, so having planets that are adjacent is always going to be a nice touch, but especially having easy to progress planets is going to be really helpful. So we're looking at our blue and our grey planets. They're going to be our best way of moving out onto other planets and terraforming. That's going to be the cheapest way to do it as well, because it will be a while until we're really investing in our terraforming technology to make that cheaper. So ideally, being able to build on some of these is going to make it nice. They're also in a few different sectors, so that's going to make the sector goal a little bit easier, and then throughout the late game we can spread into some of the other sectors to get a little bit more on a score if sectors is involved. And ideally, just being able to build up our technology, get a really strong economy, a strong science, and then late game, boom, and hit the rest of the map. That's going to be the main idea for what we want to do as Nevlas, to have a really nice, strong foundation, then build and snowball in the later rounds. Now I'm going to show you an extreme situation of where it's possible for Nevlas to even get an academy out on their first round. Now this is going to be an extreme situation. You might not do this. This might not help at all. It's just the point of an exercise to show something that is possible. Let's imagine we're just starting the game. So first up, we've got to do our income to get a bonus of 3 here, and we'll get 1 more on our knowledge. We've also got this round booster that gives us 1 more ore there and 1 more knowledge. That's great. So now what could we do? Well, we could spend 3, or if we're adjacent to someone else, to be able to get a discount here. And that will let us put our research station out. That also then will cost us 2 ore. That's fine. And that means we've then upgraded to this trading station here. But then on our next turn, we could invest in getting our research lab. How do we do that? Well, we'd do that by spending 5 on upgrading to our research lab. And then we'd spend 3 to be able to invest in getting the ore cost for that. Now on our next turn, or one of our next turns, we'll be looking to try and get into getting our academy out. Why? Because already by taking that research lab there, it means that we've been able to take a tile. So now if we was to use this action of this tile and let us charge 4 over, already that's given us 2 more of our power level there. On our next turn, what we could do is perhaps discard 2 to move 4 over, then move 2 over. We could then spend that 4 to take our action here, getting 2 more power. Then we can discard this QIC to get 1 more ore, and now we have 6 ore, and we have 6 credits available to pay the cost to then get our academy out, all in the first round. Now this is an extreme situation, but it does show it's physically possible to do this. That would also then let us take another tile. So let's imagine we take this one. We didn't bump that one up before, but we can bump it once, and now we'd be bumping it again. So at the end of the first round, we're already starting with a massive boost to our science. Straight away, we've shot up the science, and we're going to have a heavy flowing round for getting a lot of flow on the science and the knowledge track here. We haven't even spent on our knowledge, so if we did go on to spend our knowledge there, we could then even go up onto the top, and straight away, end of the first round, and we're getting 4 knowledge every single turn. So this is an extreme example that does show it's physically possible in the game to have a situation where you could, by the end of the first round, already be at the top of one of the tracks. And this would mean that for the rest of the game, Nevlas are just going to be shooting up the rest of the different tracks and making the game very, very good for them in that respect. They would need to juggle for the rest of their economy. They may be heavily reliant on the power tracks to be able to get some credit income or some ore income, but overall this is an idea that they can use to be able to maximize the use of knowledge in the game. So there you have it. There's a little overview of a strategy guide for Nevlas, how to play them, how to get a good score, and how to be able to maximize on using their economy. See you in the next video.